Hello and welcome back to another YouTube video. Hi, I'm Speeder. Okay, welcome back. It has been a little bit since I have filmed for Keeper of the Books, because I missed last week as I was at my brother's finishing our, Takes Two collab on both of our gaming channels. Yeah, so today, if you've not seen the title of the video, I will be reviewing a book that I recently finished for the second time. However, I didn't really remember it that well from the first time I read it, but now it's much more fresh on my mind as I only finished it, like, last week. And that is Oathbringer, Book 3 of the Stormlight Archive by Brandon Sanderson, who is my all-time favorite author. And as someone who writes myself, basically my idol. So, yeah. Anyways, so I'm not going to go too super in depth about it because I want to make some other videos before I read Rhythm of War. But I just want to go over everything I liked, everything I disliked, things that interested me. I have a list of about 13 things that I want to briefly go over. So yeah, this video will contain spoilers for the first 3 books of the Stormlight Archive. I actually haven't read Edgedancer yet, but I have it on hold because I forgot it existed for a while. And then I'll read things called Dawn Shard. I'm not exactly sure though. And then Rhythm of War, the next main book. But anyways, yeah, let's get into it. I have not read any of the other books besides this one, Words of Radiance, and Way of Kings. Okay, so the first thing I have on my list to talk about was Dalinar's Memories. And I apologize if I pronounce some things incorrectly. I've never heard them said out loud from the author himself, and I have never listened to the audiobook except for bits and pieces when doing carpool with my neighbors who love to listen to it on audiobook. So I've never actually, super heard a lot of the words pronounced out loud, so I apologize. This is just how things have been pronounced in my mind, except for, a few names here and there. So yeah, Dalinar's Memories. So decently early on in the book, I think it was this book where he remembered his wife's name. If it was Words of Radiance, then I have my timeline completely wrong, but I'm pretty sure it was in this book when he remembers that his wife's name was Evie. And he starts getting these flashbacks, his memories are coming back after they were stolen. What he thinks originally that it was the Night Watcher who stole his memories from him, when he did go to the Night Watcher, and he did talk to the Night Watcher, but in truth, as we learned later on, I believe it was, what is her name again? She's one of the, I want to say Midnight Mother, but I feel like that's one of the Unmade. I'm risking this for spoilers by looking this up. Cultivation. There we go. Yeah. After the memories of the rift return, Dalinar finally realizes why he can't something. Cultivation herself takes things into her own hands. Yeah. So Cultivation, one of the 3, at least from what I've gathered so far, she's one of the 3, big powers. You had Honor, Odium, and cultivation. So anyways, yeah. His memories, they're a little intense. I mean, especially the second time that Dalinar goes to the Rift. Clearly, that's very intense. But I love backstory, and out of the 3 backstory things that we've gotten in these 3 books, this one might be my favorite. Because, like, Kaladin and Shallan's memories and, like, their flashback things and their learning about their stories is interesting and all. Quite interesting, but I don't know. It's interesting to see it in this particular format where Dalinar doesn't remember these things. He's now just remembering them again, and they're barely coming back to him at like a little bit of time. This is stuff that was barely even hinted at. Like, Kaladin and Shallan can hint a little bit more, and it makes more sense for them to have talked about it rather than not have talked about it, which makes things a little bit strange when we get these flashbacks, because, like, other than the fact that they don't want to talk about these things because trauma, there's not a lot of explanation as to why they don't mention these things to, like, their most trusted friends or, like, in their thoughts. I don't know if I'm making sense, but I'm just, yeah. Whereas here with Dalinar, it makes complete sense that he wouldn't talk to people about these things because, first of all, everybody else pretty much already knows. And second of all, he does not remember. He cannot even hear his wife's name for years. And remembering all of this stuff has a large impact on him, and it even for a time makes him relapse his drinking addiction. And he gets through it, and he becomes stronger, and in the end, he's able to resist Odium's pull, which is good. So that's my thoughts on that. Okay. My next thing says, talk briefly about the ships. Okay. So, next I'm going to talk about 2 ships. If you're not familiar with ships, I hope you are, if you're watching this video. But a ship is basically you have 2 characters or 2 people, or more than 2 people sometimes, or not even people at times, that you want to be in a relationship. Like, you want these 2 people to be together. Or I've even heard people, and I haven't seen this one super common, but I've even heard of people like shipping people like these 2 people. I ship them as friends, which is an odd one, but I think generally it means that I don't know. I know what it means in my mind, but I'm kind of struggling to put it into words right now, and I don't know why. But you want 2 or more people to have a relationship with each other. So there are 2 major ships in this book, and I very much like ships, so I'm going to talk about this. And that is Adolin, and I know I'm probably pronouncing that wrong, and Shallan, and Kaladin and Shallan. 2 pretty different ships, even though they have the same person in common, with Shallan. But I used to think that Kaladin and Shallan forever, right? But now, I mean, yeah, Adolin and Shallan got married, and that's part of it. But I just think that Adolin, or Adolin, I don't know, dude, I don't know, is better for Shallan than Kaladin is. Because Kaladin, he knows Shallan's darkest parts of herself. He doesn't really, and he understands her. He's better as a friend. To have him as a romantic partner, I mean, they need people to even them out. They need people that are different enough that they can even them out. And and sorry, my mother was shouting something, I don't know, something about an email, so I was listening in case she was telling me something. Anyways, so yeah, I think they need someone that is different from them, so that they can have not only someone that is different from them to like give diversity in their life or something, which is a thing that you need, but goodness gracious, people. Okay, but also, what are you doing? That is very loud. That's kind of annoying. Okay. Anyways, so yeah, I'm doing a very bad job of explaining this, but basically I think Adeline is better for Shallan than Kaladin is. Mostly because Adeline really understands Shallan, he gets her, he accepts her for who she is and what she's done, and they are comfortable with each other, they trust each other, and Adeline would be a good influence on Shallan. And as we've learned, Adeline isn't some cocky, uh, like, rude, selfish, spoiled prince. Even though he does have a lot, he's a very likable person who's decently humble and a very good warrior and very kind and really likes to see the best in people. And he is a genuinely good person. And yes, he has a small rivalry with Kaladin at first, but then they become friends. And even Kaladin admits, what's not to like about Adeline? And watch, I'm going on this rant, and then suddenly he's like revealed to be like a total villain in book 4, which I don't believe, but that would be kind of funny. Uh, and like, sure, Adeline killed Sadie's and all that. Again, I feel bad because I feel very much that I'm mispronouncing these names, but this is just how I pronounce it in my head. I'm so sorry if I'm pronouncing this incorrectly. So yeah, sure, he killed Sadie's, but he very much feels bad about that, and even rejected the throne, partially because of that, and also partly because he doesn't want to be on the throne because he doesn't think it would be good for him, right? He doesn't think it'd be good for the kingdom, and don't think I don't think he thinks that the throne would be good for him to have all that power. Whereas Kaladin with Shallan, Kaladin, he's not as likable of a person. He's very serious, very depressed a lot of the time. But I think they have a good friendship. And I think now I am content. And I like it that way. Okay. I may make another video on that. So anyways, next thing I'm going to talk about is Shadesmar, which is the, I believe it's called the Cognitive Realm. What is the other name for Shadesmar? Yeah, Cognitive Realm. So, yeah, this is it's the realm of the Spren. So it's not the human realm, though humans can go there, and it's not like the super power realm, not superpower realm, but like the super powerful realm, where like honor and odium and cultivation and all of those people, and I guess technically maybe the Stormfather's also there, but yeah, I think Shadesmar, then going to Shadesmar in this book and actually like experiencing it and exploring it was very interesting. And I haven't read Warbreaker and Mistborn yet. I have read Elantris or Elantris, I'm not sure which one it is. I think it's Elantris. I don't know. I have read that, and I have read most of the Stormlight Archive, but I have not read Mistborn and Warbreaker. I do know a couple things about them. I read part of the first book of Mistborn earlier in my life, but I have not finished it. I thought I had, but I've discovered since that I have not actually finished the book. um, and so yeah, I need to read that whole series. But I am aware of the Cosmere, um, and I am aware of Wits, or I guess, what is his real name? I guess in Mistborn. I think it was Mistborn. Or was it Warbreaker? This Wits. Hoid. Okay, yeah. I believe, yeah, his name is Hoid. So he's known as Wit in the Stormlight Archive, at least from what I've read so far. But he calls himself Hoid in another series, so I guess we can assume that that is his real name. I don't know, I haven't read that part yet, so I'm not exactly fully reliable for information on Hoid. But I know that he jumps realms, and I think it's interesting how people travel through Shadesmar, and it makes me think of a few more characters that could potentially be people that, well, I guess we now know that none of humans were originally at on Roshar, but people that came from other realms after humans came to Roshar originally, as what the singers or Parshendi knew as Voidbringers, which is something we learn about in this book. Um, so yeah, I just think that Shadesmar is a very interesting place that opens up a lot of possibility about how people travel from different realms um, throughout the Cosmere. Uh, and I think that it's a very interesting place. It has these very interesting spren. We learned that they have cities. There's full civilizations. It's very interesting, and we learn more about spren here. The fact that there are very little windspren in Shadesmar, or the cognitive realm, whatever. And I think this is interesting. Um, it gives like another level of world building, because this isn't the world that we spend most of our time in, but we do spend a decent amount of time in Shadesmar in this book, and there's a lot of world building done, and I think it was done very well. So I really like the Shadesmar section of this book. That was actually one of the only parts that I vaguely remembered from the end half, like the second half of this book. I didn't even remember the cause for the recreants, which is something we learn later. I'll get to the next point later because that's my overall love for the book. Okay, Dalinar's character developments is the next thing I have on my list. Yeah. So I think that Dalinar very much developed as a character in this book. He gets back his memories, pretty much all of them. I think all of them, and he is able in the end to resist Odium and to not become his champion, even though he almost did. He was able to be strong, and he was able to resist that, um, which is something that is very difficult to do and is something that I am very impressed by. So I think Dalinar, though he felt strong um, before he lost his memories, and perhaps he was, in a way, not in a good way, but perhaps he was, in a way, strong, but also weak at the same time. Um, and in the time before after he lost Evie, and before he went to um, the Night Watcher, he is very much more weak than usual. And when he loses his memories, he feels strong, but is not truly strong. But it is this moment after he's got back all his memories and he knows about the reason for the recreants and he's come to accept these things that he has now become truly strong and a truly good person who is able to resist odium. And I think this is very interesting and something that I really like. So I think he did have a lot of very good character development. We did have a lot of very good character development for a character that didn't really have a lot of character development in the previous two books. We knew that he was a good person who, and now we learn that he used to be not such a good person. And we know that he is very honorable, and we know in the past he wasn't so honorable now. But now he has truly become those things, and he's now stronger and he's now better than he once was. So next thing I'm going to talk about here is Kaladin's acceptance and character development in this book. So Kaladin, well, he does have a decent amount of character development in previous books, but there are some moments in this book where he falters. He's unsure about his oaths. He's made oaths to be... Was it a Searchbinder? What kind of Knight Radiant is Kaladin? Okay, it looks like he's a Windrunner. For some reason I thought he was a Searchbinder. Oh, I guess that's just kind of a common name. Well, okay, yeah, he's a Windrunner. Yeah, Kaladin has made oaths to be a Windrunner, and well, he starts to question those oaths especially after the fight to take back Kolnar. Again, I'm so sorry if I'm pronouncing that incorrectly. But when he fights to take back Kolnar, you have the whole situation where you have these friends that he made when he was hanging around with the Parshmen / Parshendi / Voidbringers / Singers, whatever. And you have Moash, again, I am so sorry if I'm pronouncing that incorrectly, who was his friend from Bridge 4 before he betrayed him. And you have his current friends from Bridge 4, Scar, and I am so sorry if I'm pronouncing this wrong again, Drehe or Dre? I'm not sure which one it is. I'm so sorry if there was something completely different. I'm so sorry. And then he also has Elukar, and again, I'm very sorry if I'm pronouncing that incorrectly, who, though he doesn't like the man very much, he respects, He kind of respects him, but he wants to protect this person. He's made an oath to protect his king. And all of this is happening. People that he loves are dying. People that he doesn't love so much are dying. I mean, Elukar dies, which was honestly unexpected to me even this time through because I didn't remember that he died. I suppose it kind of makes sense, but I did not remember that he died. But in the end, Kaladin seems to be able to accept things more thoroughly, and of course, Syl is very relieved by this as usual. And yeah, I think that Kaladin, he learns to accept things. Like, sometimes oaths aren't as set in stone as he thinks that they are. And he goes through a decent amount of character development in this book, and I like that. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to talk about is Shallan's acceptance and character development. Shallan, I think, had, alongside Dalinar, some of the most... I think she actually had the most amount of character development in this book. throughout a lot of the book and throughout the series, we see Shallan struggling with her identity. We see her struggling with truth. She wants to lie about things to protect herself and to protect others. She has the ability to make illusions around her to turn herself into other people. She has these other personalities, these completely different people inside of her as Veil and Radiant. Veil being the uh, con artist, sly, um, kind of gangster, I guess, who is a spy and uh, does what it takes. And you have Radiant, who's very firm and strong and knows how to fight and control a battlefield. She has these completely different personalities from her frail self, as she sees herself as frail. And she struggles to know which one of these personas is herself, because she doesn't know who she is. She knows that she doesn't know she's Shallan, she doesn't know she's Veil, she doesn't know she's Radiant, and we can see her struggling with this throughout most of the book, which is something that a lot of people can probably relate to, struggling to discover who you are as a person, even if it's not always, though sometimes, it's not always that extreme where you have literal, like, different people in your head. Which I guess I don't know much about multi-personality disorder, but or whatever it's called. I'm so sorry if I was insensitive with that. But it's almost like that, I guess, in the way that she has multiple personalities in her head. But I believe it's also different. I'm not gonna say any more on that because I'm not educated enough. So I apologize if that was completely incorrect. But yeah, so she struggles to know who she is, and she struggles because she wants to be strong, she wants to be brave, she wants to help other people, and she wants to hide and to help herself as well. Because she feels like she has everything down on the surface, but truly on the inside, she doesn't actually have everything down. She's just basically a confused little girl. And in the end, though she still has Veil and Radiance, I think Adeline especially helps her to, and as well as Wit, or I guess Hoyd, helps her to accept these other parts of herself and to not, and to know that she, Shallan, is who she is. And of course she wants to block out her memories because, I mean, she kind of killed both of her parents, and it's kind of a dark past. So of course she would want to hide those memories away, but you know, she has a lot of good character development in this book. And I think it's great that she is accepting these things, she's telling these truths, and she is learning who she is as a person. So I think she has a great deal of character development in this book. Okay, my thoughts on Adeline. I basically already went over this. I think he's a great guy. I know that he has his own personal struggles. He did kill Sadie's, for example. And he did have that quarrel with Kaladin at first, and that's gone away for the most part now. And I think he's a good person, and I think he's good for Shallan, and that's all I really have to say there. Okay. Thoughts on the thing that caused the Recreants? Yeah. So, we discover in this book that humans are not the native species of Roshar. That, in fact, it was the Singers, the Parshendi, the Parshmen, whatever you want to call them. And that humans were the original Voidbringers, not Parshendi, not Singers. I'm just going to go with Singers. Not Singers, it was humans. Because humans were the invaders. Humans took over this world when they were given a small portion of it. And we also discovered that Odium was the humans' god, not honor. and that odium was brought to this world. And that wasn't good, clearly. I don't know. It's interesting. So clearly, at first, this was very morally wrong that humans had taken over this world. But now that Odium, who is a great evil, has taken over these people, these singers, Parshendi, whatever, and turned them into the Voidbringers, it's like the humans are. I want to make this analogy, but I want to double check that I'm not going to say this wrong. Um, it's like a crab or some creatures that have these shells, these things that they live inside that once belonged to something else and will in the future belong to something else as well. It's like that. I want to say snail. I want to say crab, but honestly, my mind is kind of jumbled right now, so I couldn't tell you. But now that these singers have become corrupted, and they have perhaps the singers themselves and the Parshendi and the Parshmen don't deserve to die. They don't deserve to be enslaved either, and the humans have done them a great wrong by enslaving them. And if the humans and the Parshmen or the singers could make peace and they would only destroy the fused somehow, then that would be really the only morally right thing to do. It's kind of a moral gray area, and I don't really know how to go deeper into that, at the moment at least. Alright, next thing, talk about the Unmade. So, discovered that there are at least, I think it's 9 or 10 of the Unmade, I'm not exactly sure, that we learn about during these. So there are little, like, passages from books or, like, quotes and stuff from books that are within this book that are at the beginning of almost every chapter. And a whole section of it is someone talking about each of the Unmade and revealing information about each of these Unmade. And I think it's interesting, these descriptions. And the big one that I want to talk about, which also couples up with the next thing I want to talk about, is the thrill, the Alethi thrill that they feel in battle. And originally, I just kind of thought that this was like an adrenaline rush, because I mean, I've gotten an adrenaline rush before. I play soccer, and sorry if you're from Europe and call it football, but I am American, so I call it soccer because that's what we call it. Even though football makes more sense, but you know, whatever. Yeah, so I do play soccer, and I get an adrenaline rush from that. And I like to hike, and I like to read. Clearly I like to read. I get an adrenaline rush when I get to a really good part of a book. So originally I thought this was just an adrenaline rush, because like the Alethi have like this thirst for battle, right? It's just in their blood. But in this book, it became more clear to me that the thrill wasn't adrenaline, but it was like basically a living entity. The moment I realized there was something off, and I don't know if I should have realized this sooner, but this is when I realized it, is when in one of Dalinar's flashbacks he mentions a red cloud clouding his vision, how he couldn't see, he just felt, and he had to do this thing, and there was nothing that could stop him. And also the fact that the thrill was capitalized. And I was like, okay, this is really weird for them to focus on this so much. So I'm thinking this is something more. And so later on, it is something more. It is one of the unmade. I believe, one of the more mindless ones. And it gives this thirst and power in battle. And it seems to mostly affect Alethi. And again, I'm so sorry if I'm saying that name wrong. But I was mildly surprised that this was one of the unmade, but also not super surprised, and maybe I should have known that it was, and I'm sorry if I didn't notice something for some reason, but this game is a bit of a surprise to me, though I had considered that it was a living entity before. Okay, moving on to thoughts on Zeth. Again, not sure if that's how you say it. So, Zeth, Sun Velena, or whatever, he becomes a Knight Radiant, like a real one, in this book, instead of just using an Honor Blade. We discover that his Oathstone thing, or whatever, was just a rock, because he hadn't actually done anything. But I don't know, I don't super blame him entirely. And he shows that he wants to do some good now. However, in a ruthless way, he does want to do some good. He wants to serve Dalinar Kholin, who he believes is good, and he is now fully good, with full good intentions and full wholeness of mind. He remembers everything, and he's truly a good person now. And so that's good. And he was following the customs of his people. He didn't really know how else to live. I don't really know much to say on him. And then finally, the last thing I wrote was thoughts on Wit. I think he's strange. I know he's a traveler from throughout the Cosmere and older than time, all that. But I don't really have much to say about him. So I'm just going to move on to the fourth thing that I wrote down to talk about, but I don't know why I wrote it fourth, and that is my overall love of the book. I love this book. It is my favorite Stormlight Archive book so far, I think. And I love it. And it's really good. It has the Dalinar flashbacks. It has so much character development for Shallan. I love that. And it was great. I love this book. I love the ending with Dalinar pushing against society and learning to write as a man, which is such a stupid rule if they can't have women fighting and men writing. Why can't they just do all of it? Both of them. The gender stereotype, the gender roles in this universe is so much worse than in ours. And yeah, it's terrible. But, you know, I like that. And I like that Dalinar is writing his own stuff now, which is good. And yeah, I really like this book so much, and I really wanted to talk about it. And look at that, I've talked about it for 40 minutes. So that's great. I hope you guys enjoyed. You may have noticed I'm doing blank screen videos. I'm probably gonna put something in the background in future ones, or just go back to using the camcorder if I can ever find it again. But if you do like this kind of podcast style with you not being able to see my face and just having to listen instead of see what's going on, well, let me know. I have gotten a few comments on this channel, as well as my gaming channel. Whereas on The Keeper of the Movies, I have not gotten a single comment, which is a little bit problematic, as I do need to know some feedback about certain ways that I've been using scripts or not using scripts. So please let me know if you like this, because I need some feedback so I know what you guys like. So anyways, that is all I have for today. I will see you guys next time. Bye.